Happy New Year. I feel like we're all kind of over that at this point, but figure I'll put it out there. It is still January. Good to see you all. All right, let's see who we got here. Welcome, Renata. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Marco. Good to see you again. Hi, Karen.
Nice to be back. Thank you.
Welcome to today's Infuse session. I got a lot planned for you. We're going to focus primarily on curriculum development today. That one's something that's come up a few times in our previous Q&A calls, and I know people have been asking questions about that. Um, so we will talk about how to put that together. I know we've talked a little bit about it from the perspective of getting to know your audience, which is really informative, and also getting to know yourself and your strengths and what to teach to. So kind of keep those lessons and thoughts in mind as we move through today's content, because that's certainly not out the window, but I'm trying to build on that just a little bit and put it all together so we can start building our own curriculum, or even if you have one, maybe adjusting it, revising it, and tailoring it a little bit there. All right. So please, if you haven't already, even if you've been here a few times, it's nice to get to know you because there's people on here who haven't or who don't know you, even if I know you. So just introduce yourself, where you're from, what you've been up to, and I have a couple questions for you guys. Um, and this is, I guess, very fitting for the new year, but what is it that you're looking forward to the most this year? And this can be teaching kitchen related or not. It could just be something else in life. I'm just curious. What's on your radar this year that you're really jazzed about? I want to know. And then another question, maybe this one resonates better, or you want to answer both. What is one thing on your to-do list for this year? It can be a big thing, it can be a little thing. What's one thing on the list? What do you want to accomplish? What are you looking forward to? What do you want to accomplish? They could be the same thing. They could be very different. Who knows? Thinking of myself, let's see. What am I looking forward to the most this year? I asked this question and I didn't even really think of what I would say in response. Let me think about that one. Um, what am I looking forward to the most? Okay. This is going to be very cheesy, but I'm looking forward to my culinary medicine mastermind. I've put a lot of thought and work into that, and I am really excited to deliver it. It's kind of a culmination of all the things I enjoy doing, and helping people get that transformation is very exciting to me. So I'm very excited about that. In terms of one thing on my to-do list, I'm in the process of revising that. So that is on my to-do list. Yeah. And I'll talk probably more about that at the end, just a little bit. I won't spend too much time on it. Let's see. Who do we have here? Hi, Jessica. Welcome. Um, Looking forward to deepening my culinary medicine journey. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And then Jenny. Hi, Jenny from Ohio. Lots of Ohio people on this call. That's okay. It's just interesting to. Oh, also taking your CCMS exam in March and April. Fantastic. Fantastic. Look at you guys. Good stuff. Big stuff. On my to-do list, have not yet decided. Okay, I got you. That's fine. That's a to-do list for sure. All right. Hi, Marco from Albany, New York. Oh, okay. You're closer than I thought. That's all right. All right, guys. Oh, yeah, keep popping in the chat if you don't mind. I do review the chats just to see what everybody's up to and to learn more about you and kind of see what those questions are so I can tailor some of the content to them. So even if I don't address it directly, I still enjoy reading those towards the end. One thing on Renata's to-do list is to revise the homework for next year. All right. All right. There you go. Getting it done. Tiffany from Tampa. Looking forward to starting my culinary arts program next month. Oh, that's fun. And then host your first nutrition webinar. Brava. Love that. All right, guys. All right, fantastic. Okay, this is exciting. I'm so excited for you guys. I always like to ask this kind of stuff because it just gets me excited too. All right. So, thinking of what we want to do this year, this actually isn't terribly relevant to the content, but we can work it in if you stretch that. But I just want to say a big welcome. I know a lot of you have been on some of my other calls, so I won't spend too much time on this. I feel like you kind of already know me a little bit. But I just want to say you're in the right place. If you have an interest in culinary medicine, you're looking to grow, expand, hone your facilitation skills, this is for you. It doesn't really matter where in that process you are. You could be just starting out. You could already have a program. You could have been doing this for years. Um, whether or not you have any qualifications is also not very relevant. Now, I will say I do tailor this call to dietitians specifically, but due to the nature of culinary medicine, it is an interdisciplinary profession, and I think some of this content is still valuable even if you're in an adjacent profession. But overall, I'm hoping that you will gain more confidence and clarity in your own practice, whatever that practice setting happens to be. A little bit about me. I've been practicing culinary medicine for over 12 years, and one of my most significant accomplishments of note with relevance to culinary medicine is creating the world's largest teaching kitchen program in a single integrated healthcare system. This was the Department of Veterans Affairs in the US. And I grew that program to over 130 facilities nationwide, with not by myself, but I did lead the program. And in my capacity doing that, and since then, I've helped over 200 culinary medicine programs get started, thousands and thousands of clients seen personally, and I really enjoy helping other dietitians and supporting them in starting or enhancing their culinary medicine practice. I don't like to I don't like to see information like this gate kept. And we've had conversations about there being um, kind of pockets of information for different settings. And I think that leads to confusion for people. But something to embrace is that all culinary medicine programs are unique. So in this, take what you need and leave the rest, even in my, what I offer. I know I'm not for everybody, but maybe you'll get something out of this and you can take it with you on your journey. And maybe that will help someone else down the road. So I like things to snowball if they can. I'm here to share my insights, perspective, and guidance with my experience so you can align your program with your strengths and overcome whatever's standing in your way. I really like to help people overcome barriers and feel more confident and build their own self-efficacy. I know that's what we're helping other people do in our curriculum or classes, but it helps to help ourselves as well. When we have a program that we feel fits with our strengths and aligns with our tendencies and characteristics, we're going to show up that much better. We can kind of fake it till we make it, but some things can't be faked, namely our passion for things. Um, but you might have the passion and still have a lot of things you're juggling, and I am happy to help you overcome those things as they come across your path. So whatever is in your way to integrating culinary medicine to your practice, that would be a topic you could bring up at one of our Q&A calls, or just pop in the chat here and we can work that into a future Infuse call. So just a little bit more about me. Again, I won't spend too much time on this. I think I'm actually going to do away with most of these intro slides pretty soon. But I like to joke that I've been doing this for 30 years now. I cooked a lot as a kid. My mom was very supportive of me trying things out in the kitchen. I even had the little American Girl cookbook I remember. I don't know if you remember the American Girl dolls. It was like the same company, same brand. Um, and I would always bug her about making something in the cookbook. And luckily, she humored me. It turned out pretty well for me. I became a dietitian, even though that wasn't my initial prospects, but I became a dietitian and I kind of fell into this simply be, oh, Jessica, you had that cookbook too. That's amazing. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I kind of fell into it. It always made sense for me to talk about food and cooking in the same context because that's how we interact with food, right? We are nutrition professionals, but that's not the language that we speak about food in when it comes to just real people, right? Nutrients don't really mean too much. We need to translate that into actual foods and food preparation and one more step, applying that to your own lifestyle and blending it in. So we're not asking someone to do something that's against their nature or out of character for them. And that's kind of how this came about. And apparently I have a knack for it because I went pretty far with it. So here we are today. And now I just like helping people. So this is my opportunity to do so and put it out to the world with no barrier, with no bars. All right. Ultimately, my dream is to see this type of nutrition education, interactive nutrition education, or what we now call culinary medicine, become the standard of care. And I want it to be accessible in every practice and primary healthcare facility. I truly feel that this needs to be a part of everyone's journey and at least the exposure to it, even if they don't want to participate, they have the option available to them. And I really want to see this scale globally. It's already been scaling in the US, and I was a big part of that movement. And now I want to take that further and see it scale in other countries and um, help people develop that organically. I know it's not going to look exactly the same country to country. You have a different population, you have different structure, different needs, but we can still learn from where it's happened already and take some of those lessons to apply it, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can all help each other integrate culinary medicine into our own respective practices. All right, now we're going to get into our content a little bit for today. So, kind of to preface our curriculum development conversation, I want to ask, what is the end goal for you? Like when you think of your program or your practice, what's the end goal for your clients or your students or your patients when they go through your culinary medicine program? What is the outcome you're looking for? We want to start there. And like I said, remember some of the things we've talked about so far, right? Getting to know your audience, getting to know yourself, and that alignment. That piece is part of what's going to inform the curriculum development process. But actually, I'm going to go back so you can keep thinking about it. I want to see some answers in the chat first. But you also want to think of where you're trying to bring them to. What is that outcome? Let's see. Walk away feeling a little more empowered. Great. Empowerment, confidence, self-efficacy, to feel more equipped and inspired to cook at home. There we go. We're making cooking more accessible for people. Absolutely. And less overwhelming, perhaps, too. Yeah. All of the above. All right. I agree, Renata. All of them are good. More knowledgeable about toxic ingredients and what to swap those with. Okay. So informational content. Knowing what to do, maybe even knowing how to make food decisions for themselves. I would put that in the confidence bar too. They said it first. Fair enough, Renata. Yes. I like all of the above too. Yeah. um, think of those outcomes. And the reason I ask this is because when we put a curriculum together, what we're really doing is leading people down a path from point A to point B. That's it, right? So in order to do that effectively, we want to know what our point A and point B are. The work we've done to get to know our audience informs the point A. We want to know where they're starting, right? Meet people where they're at. What is the starting point? What is the jumping off point? Where are they now? And take them on that journey to get them to point B, which is this outcome that we have defined, right? What is that end goal? That's point B. And that's what informs the curriculum. The reason I'm pointing this out is that a lot of people think it's recipe first. We think of the recipes, and I think that's part of the fun part for us. Um, and it's okay to like make a recipe fit a curriculum, but put your bones of the curriculum together first before you choose the recipes to ensure that they're conveying the things you want to convey, if that makes sense, right? Make sure they're recipes that do lead them down that path. Um, so with our, oops, I went the wrong way. There we go. Um, so kind of to define what a curriculum is, I mean, I'm sure we have people that have created curricula here, or at least are working off of their own or someone else's. A curriculum is just a sequence of learning experiences designed to help someone get from point A to point B, right? That's pretty much what it is. It's organized, it's clear, it is a path to follow, pretty much. Um, and something I want to throw out here, and this is a theme in everything I say, is it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be comprehensive. We're not throwing the kitchen sink at them, right? A big thing of this, like I said before, is meeting people where they are and giving them those steps along the way. We don't need to take them from point A to point B in one session. Maybe that's going to take 3 sessions. Maybe that's going to take 6 sessions. Kind of think of that too. And if your point B is too big for them to get to in a shorter time frame, think of a midpoint, right? Maybe not total confidence in the cooking, in the kitchen, but they're confident with one aspect of cooking. They're confident with a specific technique. They're confident in making a decision around their sodium intake, right? Maybe get more specific with what that confidence is and niche it down just a little to make it more manageable in a shorter time frame. I just say this because typically I find series don't go too much past a 6 week series for a lot of folks. And that's just because people's attention spans. It's hard for folks to commit to longer term endeavors. We do have some 12 and 16 weeks series out there, and those are lovely. I love them. I love a big series. But it is harder to get people committed to those just because it's a bigger time investment. It's a bigger commitment. They don't may not know what they're doing in 3 months. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing in 3 months. Um, so even if you have a specific outcome in mind, pare it down if it feels too big to get to and whatever your offering is. If it's a one-off class, think of what the next step really is realistic for your folks. Um, Let me see in chat here. I see a couple. See some chatter here. Let's see. Borrow the motto from Miss Frizzle at the Magic School Bus. Take chances, make mistakes, get messy. Oh, I love that. I love that a lot. Um, what is your ideal class time? 2 hours? Generally speaking, for a hands-on class, 2 hours is my preferred, I would say. Yeah. But you can still do a lot, even with a 30-minute segment or an hour segment. It limits the type of recipe you choose, but I don't really think it limits what you can impart to people. I think you can still get a lot accomplished in terms of achieving that outcome, even in a 30-minute or a 1 hour session. Yeah. Um, the recipe itself might be the time-consuming part, so maybe we just choose a less time-consuming recipe. But that's part of it too, is kind of that ongoing evolution. Think of a curriculum as not a static thing. Um, it's an evolving thing. Get it out there, something to start with, and then revise it every so often, right? Every time you do this curriculum that you've created, you're going to be practicing it and discovering things about it, discovering what works really well, what doesn't work so well, what is necessary, what's not necessary, things like that. How and even the fit, right? How well does this fit my audience? And you can always take the opportunity to tweak it and adjust it and polish it. If you want to think of it as a pilot phase, think of it as a pilot phase, but I just think of it as doing it and refining it as you go along. Process improvement. My favorite term for that. So let's get started putting this together, okay? And again, recipe doesn't come first. Recipe comes a little bit later. Sometimes we try to force the recipe, I think, because we're really excited about a certain one. But and you can get creative in how you make that recipe play out, but do just that. Make sure you're choosing it very intentionally. Intentionally. All right, so let's get clear about what we want to accomplish with this curriculum. That's going to inform its entire development. And I already mentioned this, but you want to tailor it to your audience and your strengths, right? You don't want to be teaching about, I don't want to say you don't want to be teaching, but it might not be the best idea to teach about, you know, healthy aging and Adaptable cooking techniques to an audience that is, 20-year-old college athletes, for example, that may not be relevant to them at that point in their lives or of interest to them at that point in their lives, right? So always tailor it to your audience. Make sure you are aware of, at least to some degree, what they care about, what they're wanting to get out of this, what's important to them. That's always going to drive these conversations and your curriculum. Um, but also think about your own strengths. What do you bring to the table? What is your skill set? What is your professional background? What is your confidence in different areas of culinary medicine? And you can set it up to honor some of those strengths too, because when you feel supported, you're going to deliver at a higher level. Within the curriculum, remember what it needs to be too. It's not just teaching someone how to follow a recipe. I mean, maybe that actually is the topic though. That could be your focus that day. Maybe it is learning how to read a recipe. But that's not every class in the curriculum, right? And this is where you think of that end goal, think of that outcome. What do you want to do? Um, what purpose does this curriculum serve? There we go. That's the question I'm trying to get out there. What purpose does this curriculum serve? The curriculum is a roadmap for your participants, for your audience, but it also helps you, right? When we have it defined, the sequence that we're going to go through, we feel more at ease. We feel confident. We feel relaxed about it. We also know where the road is, so to speak. It's like, how are we going to take someone on this journey when we've never been there ourselves? Yet we're the guide. We would at least like to take that journey once or twice before we help someone else with it, perhaps, right? So having your curriculum defined does help us as well. Just like, well, I'll take this whole slide, for example, right? When we present, we have slides. That's not just for your benefit as the audience, it's also for my benefit to keep my thoughts organized and keep myself on track. So I don't go off on too many tangents and I stay sequential, we'll say it that way. It also creates consistency across programs. Now, this may or may not apply just yet, we'll say. It depends on your capacity here, I find. If you do multiple different classes for different entities, that consistency may not be as important. If you're creating multiple classes for a single entity, that consistency does become more important. I will also say this, when you're developing a relationship with your potential audience, that consistency helps as well. People like to know what to expect. We will always choose familiarity over something unknown. I won't say always, but most people do. Most people do. We like to know what's coming. We don't like to go into something blind. And part of how we, as facilitators of culinary medicine, can demonstrate that is have a consistent structure across all of our classes. So people come to one and then they kind of know what to expect. It's not going to be a different curveball every single time. That will help them relax and trust you and trust the process, which is kind of the next step, right? That consistency, that reliability, if you will, helps your participants learn to trust the process and learn to trust you. Because something about this, and we've talked about this, we just talked about this in December, is it's more than just an educational experience, right? We're creating an experience, period. We want this to be memorable. We want this to be relevant to their lives and applicable. And we're asking people to try new things in front of their peers, which is very uncomfortable for some people, right? It's not fun to try something for the first time when you have a fear of failure or a fear of being made fun of, right? We have people in our classes from all walks of life. We don't know their lived experiences. And there's some hesitancy there, some big hesitancy in people. And it's not just being shy, you know, sometimes it's just a fear of rejection or a fear of not being good enough. Um, and we want to create a safe space so people will let go of those fears and be willing to try something new, be willing to explore, be willing to make a decision in front of people that is new to them. And that's where that trusting in the process really lends itself. So this curriculum also gives that consistency and stability and imparts that to our audience. Um, Another big reason for having a curriculum and being clear about what you want to accomplish with that is helping us as facilitators prevent overteaching. We do have a tendency to want to throw the kitchen sink at people. And I think it's just because we're excited and we see all these opportunities and we have all this knowledge. We're just so jazzed to share that with people. I do it too, to a degree. And we don't need to do that. We don't need to get them, remember, point A to point B. We're not going all the way to Z. We're not even going to D, just A to B. Okay. We have time to teach them more things in another class and on another day. And something that really helps me with this is remembering that even myself, I can only retain and absorb so much information at a time. If I am if I am told too many things, they're not all going to stick. I'm going to remember maybe one or two things. Not even three, if I'm being honest. One or two, probably one. So remember that in your curriculum too, right? What's the end goal? What is the one most important thing you want to convey today? Really focus on that. You can throw a few more things in there for I don't want to say fluff, but to support the one thing, we'll say it that way, but try not to go too much, right? If you want to talk about something different, something adjacent, something this leads to, make that a separate experience, right? And let them percolate on this, let them process the information before you provide another set of information for them. Um, Something I also like to embrace is that a curriculum isn't a restriction on you, right? Don't think of it that way. I don't think a lot of us do, but I find curriculum challenging as a creative person sometimes because it doesn't always match with what I want to do today or my whim. But having the curriculum forces me to stay structured. And really, in all honesty, it's not a restriction, it is a support. It's supporting me in conveying the message or the end goal that I want to my clients, to my participants, and not getting sidetracked or deviated. And if I have a good idea, I remind myself of this too. I can just talk about that another day. I can put it into another class. And this is where other curriculum come from, right? So I have a base curriculum and then I have spin-off curricula for things. And that's where I can put those other ideas, right? Keep it simple, keep it streamlined, keep it focused on that end goal and let it be your support. That's really what the curriculum is. This is providing the path forward. So keep that in mind as we're putting this together. Don't jump, like I said before, don't jump straight into your recipes without the intention behind them. Always think of what do I want them to get out of this recipe? Um, what is the end goal? And that goal changes depending on the setting, depending on your population, depending on you might even have several different end goals in mind. So for example, if this is a series, my end goals are going to be incremental and kind of sequential, leading them to a final end goal. If this is a one-off class, I keep it very straightforward. Usually it's something like, I want them to have confidence in their decision making around the holidays, or something very specific. I get much more specific when it's a one-off class. Or I want them to have the knowledge and confidence to make decisions about their sodium intake so they can control their high blood pressure. Very specific outcome there. Um, Maybe it's around meal planning or something like that. But define that. If this is more of a demonstration style, where it's not going to be as interactive or even a demo at an event, my goal changes. My goal is not going to be education for that, but maybe just awareness. I don't necessarily need to teach them how to change their lives. I'm not going to have their attention for that long if it's a demo at a health fair or something, right? Um, but I do want to just be a moment in time, a thought, oh, that dietitian at that thing said this. That might be helpful. Let me try it out. Just one little thing, or even just get their attention and bring them into a class someday, right? Maybe it's a promotion effort, alerting them and raising their awareness of what exists out there that they can benefit from. But maybe it's just a quick little tip. Maybe it's something very simple, maybe one little nugget of information. Maybe that's my outcome. So I'll kind of reel it in here, but just as an example of think of your setting and what it is you're doing right here, right? How long do you have these people for? How long is their attention span, right? What type of environment are we conveying this information? That all comes into this curriculum as well. Um, Outcomes do matter more here than the information itself. Keep that in mind. The information is a tool to get us to an outcome, perhaps, but it is the behavior we're after at the end of the day, right? That behavior shift. And that is confidence. That is a skill. That is the ease or accessibility of doing something. That is clarity, not calorie, in decision making. See, I knew there'd be a typo in here somewhere. Clarity in decision making. That is a sense of agency to make their own decisions about something. Empowerment, right? Those are our outcomes, not the information. The information is part of the path to get us there. A good question to ask yourself, if this is still something that's a little blurry for you, is thinking, okay, by the end of this class, participants should be able to what? It's just like grading a learning objective. um, be able to what? What are they going to do? What's going to be different about them? That's your point B, right? Point A to point B. And as long as you have both the starting point and the ending point, A and B, you can put your curriculum together. From there, it's really just filling in the blanks. And I have a framework coming up for what blanks to fill in uh, very shortly here. So now we're going to start talking about recipes. We have our endpoint, two endpoints, and now we just fill in the middle. What recipe will convey the skills that are needed or the concept I'm trying to demonstrate here? And I'm going to design this entire experience around those outcomes still and use the recipe and the knowledge therein as my tool, right? The experience that drives the behavior change. This is them doing it or practicing it, or maybe just trying something new that they haven't tried before. So when I'm picking my recipes out, in addition to thinking about my context and what is actually feasible, of course, I'm not going to do, like oven baked something if I don't have an oven, for example, right? Thinking of what resources I have available. I actually don't worry too much about appliances because a lot of recipes have some flex or I can find something similar. Um, but when we're selecting the recipes, I think, what is this recipe teaching? What is the skill here? Or the concept, or the nutrition knowledge, for example, right? Maybe if I'm teaching people how to help manage their sodium to reduce blood pressure, I think a big concept that I often go towards is teaching them how you can add flavor with other things besides salt. That's a big one. So I want to choose a really impactful, noticeable, high flavor recipe that doesn't have a lot of salt in it to show them that they can still have that in their lives. And it's not all bland, bland, bland. Right? Just as an example, what is this recipe teaching? Maybe this recipe is teaching knife skills. Maybe it's just lots of chopping. You're putting a fresh salsa together, or your chopping recipe, like you're doing a roasted vegetable recipe, and it's just learning how to use a piece of kitchen equipment more safely, more effectively, more efficiently, and more confidently. I feel like knife skills is always kind of a taken for granted skill. We all do it. We've all at least done it, even if we don't do it a lot. And I say we, meaning like general people that exist. But not a lot of people have had formal education in that. It's usually just they saw an adult when they were a child using a knife and they mimicked how to use it. And that's it. So even just teaching a little bit of knife safety, knife handling can go a long way for folks and feeling confident about chopping things more often. And you know what? A lot of vegetables need chopping. So that is a segue to choosing more vegetables. Maybe that's the thing that's getting in their way is that they just don't like chopping. And if you know what, that's a real roadblock. There are such things as pre-chopped vegetables. So maybe we go in that direction. Anyway, I'm selecting my recipe based on the thing that I want to impart. So if it's knife skills, I'm not going to choose a recipe where we're just opening cans and making chili. I'm going to choose a recipe where we're actually chopping things up to put it together. Another question to ask when you're trying to pin down your recipe selection is, why does it belong here? Right? You already have what it's teaching. Why this and not a different one? And this is, I find this is nice if you have a few recipes you've kind of collected and you're trying to pare it down. Why does this belong here? Which recipe is the best fit for the end goal that I'm trying to accomplish? I typically err on the side of simpler, easier to understand, more common ingredients, things like that, just because it increases the accessibility factor for folks. If you can, even if it's a lovely recipe, if there's something in there that's harder to find, that's what people get hung up on. It is. It's hard for them to see past that. They're not yet at that stage. That might be like an EDC. Wow, I just went down there. I can't say the alphabet order. Maybe, right, we're going from point A to B. That's like a C or a D problem, not a B problem. Um, so I don't want to throw them those loops. Not yet. They're not ready for that kind of critical thinking challenge when it comes to this. Right now, I want to give them easy wins. I want to give them simplicity. I want to give them clarity. So why do these recipes belong here versus a different recipe, right? If I can make it easier for them, easier for me, simpler, more straightforward, I will. Um, and then last but not least, what skill or concept, we kind of already talked about this. These are just more questions to accomplish the same end goal. What skill or concept does this recipe reinforce? So maybe you've already taught this, but now it's a reinforcer. So maybe we already did knife skills in an earlier class, or I know they're coming to me with an understanding of knife skills, perhaps. Maybe I'm teaching a workshop to chefs about culinary medicine from the nutrition perspective, you know, and they already know how to use a knife. I don't need to go over that. What other skills or concepts might this recipe reinforce? Maybe this recipe reinforces, I'm not going to use the chef example, but maybe it reinforces those knife skills, but low key. Maybe it reinforces, um, the skill of mixing and matching, right? Variations on a theme. Maybe it reinforces using leftovers. That's a nice skill to help reduce food waste. What does this concept reinforce? That's an okay, question to answer with your recipes too. Take home point here though is that you want your recipes to be very intentional, not just theme of the day, not just what you're feeling, though that's a great way to get some inspiration, you can use that, but make sure they fit your end goal with your curriculum. And that's what you put in the curriculum. All right. Now, integrating reflection and engagement. This is another big piece. Now, not necessarily with the curriculum selection in terms of, in terms of recipes, but in your curriculum, which is again the sequence of experiences to get your client from point A to point B, right? This is their journey. We need to have that engagement piece, that reflection piece. We need to bring them into it. This can't be one-sided. This has to be a two-way street. One, this will inform us of maybe further curriculum or later curriculum or curriculum improvements. But remember, we got to keep it relevant to them. We got to keep it in their ballpark, even if we want them at point B and they're not there yet. We have to still meet them where they are, and this helps us do that. This also helps them make that leap in self-efficacy from I'm doing this here, but now I take this home, and how does this look in my home life, my home environment? How does it fit in the cadence of my day, right? How does it fit into my routine? That's the piece we want, because that's going to really get us that behavior change in the long run. If it doesn't fit, they're only going to spend so much time figuring that out and then give up and move on. So if we can bring that kind of reflection exercise into class and they do it there, they have the decision made, that's one less thing for the brain to get hung up on, and they're more likely to do it. So think of how to integrate that into your session. I love just asking questions. I'm a big question asker. That gets people engaged. It also gives them something specific. And if you can ask a specific question, that's going to be easier for them to answer than a general one. So something like, and think it like open-ended question versus yes or no, right? So we can keep the conversation going. So not just, did you enjoy these recipes? Yeah. Okay, it just stops there. What did you enjoy about these recipes? What was your favorite thing? Why? How do you see yourself doing this at home? Things like that, right? Invite them to share and try to keep them open questions to lead them into an answer, and you'll get much more engagement from that. And remember, even with the reflection, try to keep it around your take-home points if you can. Keep that end goal in mind with these questions. And again, no more than 3 take-home points total, because we do have Oh, thanks, Renata. We do have a capacity for absorbing new things, and our brain is processing that and integrating it. And that's the part we really want to capitalize on here, that integration. How do they integrate this new skill, this new knowledge, this new behavior, this new confidence into their day-to-day lives? That's the gold right there. That's the gold. If we can help them with that, answer that question, make that decision in our class, they're going to be much more successful implementing this and keeping it going. And that's that sustainable behavior change that we are all after here. That is it. Um, Something to keep in mind too, if you don't have prefabbed questions, that's fine. You can riff. I like to riff. But ask them questions. Inviting them to share is always a good safe bet because it gets them thinking about just even past experiences too can be valuable. Gets them thinking and it gets them more open, right? And it's making it more personal. So asking people to share is always a safe bet. If you don't have specific questions in mind, ask them about their experience. Ask them about a previous experience. Ask them, if and when they've ever encountered this dish before or how they would do it differently at home, things like that. Um, Something else to keep in mind is just keep it safe and practical at the beginning. And this is more for a series. So this isn't too relevant if you're only going to see them one time and they're off. But if you have a series, 4 weeks, 6 weeks more, as you're putting your curriculum together, keep it more concrete, direct, practical at the beginning. Very easy, simple wins. We learned how to do a knife skill. They demonstrate the knife skill. Success. Yay. Um, and move into more complex topics as the series evolves, right? Because they are still learning about you, they're still building trust with you, they're still learning to open up. So we don't want to start right out the gate with something that might be overwhelming or scary to someone, like creativity or independence. I'm laughing about it, but in all seriousness, those are scary things sometimes for people. People like to have rules to follow. It's uncomfortable without parameters sometimes. So give them parameters. Make it safe for them to try new things. Give them some parameters, but keep one open so they can explore a little. And then gently peel back the parameters over time. So they learn to trust their own creativity, trust their own independence, and move into that space. Instead of starting right out of the gate with that, right? At the beginning, we need to provide that direction, right? When they come to a class, they're expecting you to tell them what to do. So tell them what to do. But you can also guide them to trying things. But exactly, they're not going to come to class and you're like, okay, what should we cook today? Like you don't, set them up for success here. Maybe in a later class, I really like to do this if I've had folks for several sessions and we start to build a rapport together and the whole class is kind of bonded. Towards the end of a series, one of my favorite things to do is kind of a mini version of Chopped. And it's I think of it as the real critical thinking independence test, where I give them just a recipe category and some ingredients, maybe like 3 or 4 things, and they fill in the rest. They make all the rest of the decisions. They don't even get a recipe. They can use Google. They can find recipes if they want. But the challenge is to get them to become creative and to put their own recipe together and really put everything that we talked about in our session into practice. And I do this with varying degrees of limit. Sometimes I'll scale it down just a notch if my folks aren't there just yet. But that is not a great thing for me to do on day 1 or 2. That's too much for people. That's scary. They're probably not going to come back. Maybe someone will come back, but it's jumping the gun, right? Not just remember A to B, not A to D, not A to Z, just A to B. Keep it scaled and then progress people down that path with your curriculum. Okay, framework time. If you want just, a clear how-to step of putting this all together. So building a framework, very simple 5-step process here. Think of your big idea. What's the theme of the class, right? What is the whole point? Maybe it's low sodium. Maybe it's reading food labels. Maybe it's reducing food waste. Maybe, this is generally going to be determined, I find, by the population you're serving in general, right? What is the goal with them? What's the whole point of your program or your work or your practice? That's your theme. That's your big idea. Then define what your learning intention is for them. This is that end goal. What are they going to gain? What are they going to learn? What are they going to do with this? What's the intention? My intention is for them to meal prep more often so they aren't left hanging with what to eat for dinner. Maybe that's my intention. What skill or concept or takeaway is going to get them there? And then we have, what are we going to apply in our class together? What's the application in the kitchen? This is your recipe, point blank, to learn that skill or that takeaway or teach that point, right? And then finally, let's reflect on that. What are we going to do to integrate this into your life? What do we need to change? Maybe the application was a a caramelized onion dip, right? And my point here was ease of recipe preparation, right? We're trying to meal plan more often. We're trying to prep and maybe reuse the same 3 or 4 ingredients, but recycle them in different ways. So you don't have to buy too many different things and feel overwhelmed. Maybe my reflection or integration moment would be, what else can you do with these caramelized onions that we used in the dip? Maybe you make a big batch, your whole thing of onions, get that done, and you use caramelized onions in different recipes. So I would ask them, what recipes would go well with that? What do you see yourself making with this? Um, what are some foods you commonly make? Some meals? Where could we fit these onions in? Things like that. Get them thinking of how this would apply in their own home life and situation. And that's it. It's it's very straightforward. Um, Curriculums can be very in-depth, very complex, but in reality, I find the simpler the better. Bullet points might be all you need. You don't need to write giant paragraphs unless you're building a curriculum with the idea of teaching like you're in professional development and this curriculum is going to be used and read by other professionals too, not just for your lay audience. You don't need a lot of text. You don't need a lot of words, simple points, simple structure. You can fill in the rest. That's it. It doesn't have to be a big 12-page lesson plan or a big to-do. You could probably make this today if you wanted to. So just to kind of show an example of this framework, um, what's the theme? Building balanced meals without perfection. This is just one I spitballed and threw together. Building balanced meals without perfection, right? They don't have to be perfect. We don't have to measure or weigh everything. We just want to put a balanced meal together and feel confident that we are doing that and giving our body what it needs. My intention here is to help reduce decision fatigue. I find that gets in the way of a lot of people's food decision making and the ultimate question, what should I make for dinner? That's the hardest thing to answer. And it's usually because of decision fatigue. So that is my intended kind of end goal, is to reduce that. The skill I'm going to be teaching to help reduce that is building a flexible plate. So that my plate method, um, and the half fruits and veggie, quarter protein, quarter complex carb, and then mix and match within there. The recipe I use for this maybe will be variations on a theme. Um, so I'll have one base and then I'll teach 3 different variations of this recipe. And people, maybe I'll even set it up so they have options to choose from. Um, and they can try different ones out, right? But again, one base, themes on a variations on a theme, and I'm still teaching to that balance. So I do want to choose a recipe or even a couple recipes. Maybe this is a longer class. If it is, I can choose 2 or 3, but I want to choose recipes that model that that balanced plate and show them that they can do this without having to have just completely separate sections of foods, that they can reuse and recycle different ingredients. It doesn't have to be something completely different every day. And this will help reduce some of that decision fatigue and overwhelm for them trying to make balanced meals at home for dinner. Excuse me. Reflection question here, big one. How will you do this at home? How do you see yourself taking what we learned and putting it into practice? What will this look like? What is your plan for dinner tomorrow night? What is one thing from today you could use in your dinner planning tomorrow night or implement? Something like that. Start asking them questions, get them thinking about really pertinent real world, sooner the better examples. So don't ask them what they're going to do next month, or, that's too far away for anyone to think about. What are you making for dinner tomorrow? Let's make that decision together. Let me help you with that. Maybe we can use something we learned today. Very relevant. That'll help give them confidence too. Anyway, that's our structure. Very simple. Let that inform your curriculum. And you only have to do this once. This is one class. Done. Dunesies, right? If you have a multi-class series, all you're going to do is do this 3 times or do this 6 times for each different class. And then you can choose the intention or the theme to build on itself to get them to whatever your ultimate pie in the sky point B is. So I hope this helped provide some clarity and information with regards to building out a curriculum. It's not all about the recipe. That should have been my take-home message. Oh well. My take-home message is it's not all about the recipe, but you also have permission to start imperfectly. Don't get hung up on making this beautiful curriculum that you could sell in Barnes and Noble. Let it be simple, straightforward, just simple. It can be a one-pager, one-page Google Doc, one-page Word doc. Doesn't have to be fancy. Okay? Title, bullet points, sections, let it be. Let it be. Let it evolve. Naturally, we are going to want to do better. I don't feel like we necessarily have to build this in because I find most dietitians just do this. We are kind of secret perfectionists or closet perfectionists and just get it out there. Naturally, every single time you deliver a series, you're going to debrief in your brain. You're going to say, oh, that went well. Oh, that sucked. I'm going to fix this next time. You're going to do it. Trust yourself. Trust that process. Really, all you need to do is take the next step. That is it. Get it out there. All right. Just seeing some comments come through. Let's see. Sorry, it's hard for me to read the comments when I'm spieling. Oh, yes, this is always recorded, and I put the recordings on YouTube. So if you're in this call, you will get an email with the recording, probably tonight or tomorrow. It takes me a little while just to get it up and posted, but I will send them out so you can always rewatch. Oh, thank you. Very good. And I'm glad this is helpful. I had fun putting this one together. Yeah. Thank you. All you need to do is take the next step. Oh, I appreciate that. You can quote me, but came up with that. I have someone else's quote here. I should have quoted myself, but I found this one inspirational as I was putting this together. If you cannot yet do great things, do small things in a great way. I really like that one. And it's just a really nice reminder that we have big ideas. We really do. And it doesn't mean we can't get there, but we got to climb that mountain, right? We can't just teleport to the top of the mountain. Just take that next step. Do that in a really wonderful way, and you will take the next step and the next step, and you will finally be doing the big, great things. You'll get there. It will all add up. It's all cumulative. Oh, wow. I just went all the way through that. Okay. Quick reminder, guys, that we have our drawing next month on our call here. Everyone in attendance gets an entry into the drawing. Yay. And you get an entry for each Infuse call that you attend per quarter. We kind of reset that every quarter. And we feature a different culinary medicine resource. This one's going to be the Mix It Up Cookbook by Olivia Thomas and Christina Battaraco. And some exciting news. I do have Christina joining us on our Q&A call on February 3rd. Now, very important, the time has changed. Normally, this is at 3 p.m. This one's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern, not 3 p.m. We are shifting our times of things. She happened to be available, and then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm going to try out a new time just to see if we can get more of our international folks on as well. But February 3rd, 11 a.m., I will send an email out about this as well. But Christina's going to be joining us, and we'll probably talk about her book a little bit. Probably I'll have some questions for her, and other things to inform curriculum development. This is a really good, flexible recipe type cookbook where you can find lots of recipes once you've identified your end goal for your curriculum, and then just Pull, like, what do you say? Take it out of the book and put it into your curriculum there. Yeah. So please share this call with someone you think that might benefit. I do want to put it out there. This is my big announcement that the Infuse calls in general are going to be moving to a new time. Still the same day, every third Tuesday, but they're now going to be taking place at 11 a.m. Eastern. 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to announce it everywhere. And again, this is to make it a little bit more reasonable of a time for folks that aren't necessarily in North America. This call is kind of at midnight for them for the most part. So I'm moving it up just a little bit earlier, trying to keep in mind our West Coast people as well. That makes it 8 o'clock for them. So that hopefully should still be doable. Um, like I've mentioned, you just start and then you adjust and fine tune as you go. And this is a perfect example of me adjusting and fine tuning as I go. If for some reason this is a flop, we can move it back, but we're going to give this new time a solid run. So 11 a.m., February 17th is our next Infuse call with our action hour on the 3rd at 11. And just again, just a quick little plug here for my culinary medicine mastermind. I did launch this to my interest group at the very beginning of the year, this month, January, and I learned some things with that launch. And I'm actually going to talk about that probably in our March call wow, I can't spell. Sorry. I'm just looking at onboarding. I'm not teaching you how to spell, so please don't hold that against me. Um, I learned some things. I got to know a little bit more about what people are ready for and looking for. And I put this whole mastermind together, but it was too much for folks. I think too big of a time commitment in particular, and people wanted a little bit more specifics on what they would be receiving through this. And I do think the 10-month, even though in my mind, I really want to be with you for a lot of that journey, that's a big commitment. So I've shortened it to 4 months, and it's also going to be a more affordable price point for people. I think that was also a barrier for folks, especially this time of year coming out of the holidays and getting ready for tax season and what have you. So we're going to relaunch this. I'm going to launch in March. So you still have a chance to get on the hype list if you're interested. If you're already on it, you don't have to sign up again. I have your information. You're good. But it's going to be a 4-month run, pretty much April through July. So we're kicking off Tuesday, March 31st, and we'll be ending on July 31st, solid 4 months. We will still have a live hands-on facilitation workshop, bi-weekly mastermind calls. I'm going to provide a one-on-one onboarding call for every single person that signs up. You'll also get a teaching kitchen audit and a launch tracker to help keep accountable to your progress throughout the mastermind. So if this is of interest to you, you can scan this QR code, get on my list. You'll get first dibs on that when that does open up. Oh, thanks, Jessica. Yeah. So that's coming out soon. And this is a perfect example. You try something. If it doesn't work, you troubleshoot it and you try again. I really believe this is going to be something big. And I do think there's a need for it. I just need to make sure it fits my audience, which is you guys. So that'll be coming out. And as I've discussed, energetically, I don't even feel like starting anything in January. So I don't know what I was thinking, launching in January. March, April feels like a much better time with the spring equinox and the sun comes back, and it'll just feel better from my perspective too. And I need to align with my own strengths as well so I can show up for you guys. All right. Without further ado, that is the end of our call. I appreciate you guys' time today. Thank you for hanging out and humoring me and listening to me spiel about my mastermind. I will see you next month, February 17th at 11 a.m. or maybe sooner on February 3rd at 11 a.m. for that Q&A. But have a great rest of your week, guys. Take care. Bye.